Hey traders, Raghee here. Great to see everybody. Happy Tuesday. I mean, this is the last trading day of the week, really. Welcome to Charts and Coffee. All right, so I want to jump into a couple things here before we grab a few questions. And as always, great to see everyone. Great to see everybody. So one of the things that I posted I recorded yesterday was the potential for a turnaround Tuesday. Now, this is something I'm sure we'll get into at some point in the future, but there are some really interesting seasonal tendencies we know when we're looking at a longer term time frame, when we're looking at a longer duration of time. But there are also intraday I don't want to call them seasonals, but they're sort of called intraday seasonals, which is what are we likely to see on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday? It actually has a lot to do with what we saw the preceding week. And so turnaround Tuesday, while it does have quite a bit of validity, it's sort of been watered down because turnaround Tuesday has a lot to do with what happened in terms of how we ended the previous week when different highs and lows were made. So I just wanted to touch on that. So I think some of the criteria is in place for a turnaround Tuesday. We have an 8 exponential prop dot in play, which I love. That's that red dot you see here on the daily time frame. So there are some really cool things that are on, I think, on display right now that we could take advantage of on what will be undoubtedly a very wonky week. All right, so kicking it off with who is Raghee Horner R online? Not a clue. I have a lot of, is it an imposter? Probably. Yeah, probably. All my social media is Raghee Horner, period. So I will never solicit you to trade with a certain broker. I won't DM you saying I'll manage your money. I won't reach out for you via social media for anything, anyone. I won't reach out regarding soliciting anything. So probably I have a lot of them, sadly, and that's just sort of the state of the internet. A lot of I tried to sign up for the TikTok, and I got the app, and I just wanted to go grab Raghee Horner. Raghee is an unusual name. You attach Horner next to it, it's unbelievably unusual. And there were already 8 of them, so I couldn't even get my name. So yeah, it's probably an imposter. All right, so let's get to it. How does GLD look for this morning for a buy? Hey there, Michael, on the gold question for a buy. Well, if we're going to have strength on gold, this point of control would have been nice. I mean, no doubt, if that held. But we know that the support is waiting a little bit further south of where we are right now. I would love to see GLD move higher, but there's also a real yield narrative that's in play, which is the nominal yield of a bond minus the rate of inflation. And when that number goes down, it's an inverse or negative correlation. Gold tends to go higher. But if we're going to talk about this morning, and by the way, my futures folks and my options folks in the simpler futures room, the simpler options room, I'll be with you all this morning for the open, for the first hour of the morning with the options folks, for the first 2 hours of the morning in the futures room. And we can talk about whether or not there are any intraday setups right now based on what I like to see. Intraday, right? Let's shorten the duration. Let's shorten the time frame. Not yet, but it's 26 minutes away. We've got 5 more 5-minute candles that will develop, and we'll see what kind of ranges we're in. But right now, I'd have to say, my friend, that is a big cup of nope. And so same idea. XAU USD is actually a gold silver versus US dollar. Just will not go looking for tops or bottoms in the gold market yet. But then since you bring up the dollar, I would love to see a pullback on the dollar. We've been playing dollar in the mastery for a bit. We've been playing dollar in the futures room for a bit, mostly dating back to this area in here, right before the ECB, which was the 28th. and then you can see what's happened since. If there is anything that was probably pretty dollar bullish, it's Jerome Powell keeping his job. I saw something on Twitter. I need to retweet it. It was hilarious. It's a photo of Powell, and above it it said, "I'm going to tell my kids this was Santa Claus." Probably. All right. So lots of questions on gold. Love it, but I'm not making any I'm not going to short it. I'm not looking to buy it yet. We'll have to see if some patterns and some setups occur, but I'm not seeing it yet. Next up, could I explain the term failed structure I referenced in the URA yesterday? So whether it's structure, whether it's phases, whether it's trends, it all just means really the same thing to me, which is, are we moving higher in an uptrend, lower in a downtrend? Are we consolidating, which is also known as accumulation, or are we in a choppy wide trend, which is often known as congestion? So if I'm looking at URA, the structure that failed was the trending structure. So if I talk about, well, the structure failed, it's the fact that we've broken the support of the wave, broken the support of the 55 propulsion, and that the trend, all the things that I love to confirm this was a trend, failed or are no longer valid. So that's what that means. So it's always going to presume we've already identified what the current market behavior is, and then we know what will happen or could happen to disrupt that. So thanks for the question. All right, next up is Netflix. All right, so if I take a look at Netflix, now there are a number of relative outperformers out there. Netflix has been very, very strong, pulling back now. And so the question is, what will we do with Netflix? Well, you know what I'm going to say. Who here is going to know what I'm going to say? Thankfully, this is too early for a drinking game, because if I were to mention double green and buy the dip, I think some of us would have to be wheeled off away in an ambulance if this were a drinking game. So you know what I'm going to say. Double green, dip, boom. So I like that. I like that a lot. Now, if I were being a little bit more discerning, which is to say a little bit more prudent and conservative, I would say it would not hurt to have maybe an inside or minor low candle, and then that could be a more conservative setup for the move higher. All right, so that's what's going on with Netflix. KR, oh my gosh, that happened. Yeah, famous, no. Anonymous is fine with, well, that's pretty funny. So when I was getting my first book deal, so I ended up getting a 3-book deal with Wiley back in, I don't remember, 04, 05. It's been a minute. When was that? Anyways, I was getting a book deal and getting ready to sign the deal. And one of the representatives for, I think it was Wiley, came back to me and said, could you let us know what websites you have out there? And I had a website where I had a newsletter and I owned my name. And they said, well, is this other site, it was a longer site that had my name in it, is that one yours? And I said, no, I know, I don't own that site. So I typed it up, and it was an adult website. And I was blown away. Oh my gosh, someone squatted my name and put that there. So I remember telling Wiley, because now I'm thinking, are they going to drop me on the deal? Are they not going to, do they think this thing is mine? And so I said, look, me and J-Lo, this is what happens. And they said, oh, right. Yeah. So no, hardly, but not too small that I can't have my name squatted for an adult website. Oof, that was bad. My husband thought it was hilarious though. So yeah, dollar, Jesse, I'm all over that. I am all over that. I love the idea of buying the dips on the dollar. They're not going to come often. We're already parabolic, but I think if we get a pullback, maybe even an aggressive one, it would be valid for a buy. Now, on the flip side of that is, how do you want to buy the dollar? Anytime we talk about currencies, we're really talking about dollar versus something else. Do I want to buy the dollar against the Canadian dollar? Actually, I do not. Do I want to buy the US dollar against the euro? In other words, long dollar, short euro? Absolutely. maybe even yen. I've been thinking about the pound. So there are some currencies that are better than others. Now, if you want to go with the dollar index basket, that is what that UUP is. That is what that DX is. But please don't let the DXY be how you measure what's going on in the dollar. This is something that's a little inside baseball for Forex traders, for currency traders. And the understanding is this: the dollar basket is 58% euro with a little bit of fairy dusting of some other currencies. If you want to know what the dollar is, look at the euro. If you want to know what the euro is doing, look at the dollar. So what you're getting with the dollar basket is an actionable ETF, an actionable futures contract, but it's diluted. That relationship back to the euro is diluted by krona, pound, yen, etc. So, but I do want to buy it. I do want to buy the dollar mostly against the euro, but I think the dollar doing a pretty good job gaining against almost everything, but the Canadian dollar. Yeah. Any thoughts on cybersecurity? So CIBR. Yeah, so I did the weekly watch list this week for Simpler. And what did I say for CIBR? Here it is. Yeah, PANW and NET. PANW and NET. Now, the challenge with some of the other symbols within the CIBR is either they're not trending, they're not clear. So crowd is right. No, thank you. And hack, again, please do check the liquidity on the option. Hack would be another big cup of nope. But I think that your question about cybersecurity, spot on. NET, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you on that. So we need to be aware of the size of the move that we're getting to the downside. I would say we need to see ideally a minor low or an inside candle. And by the way, if that terminology or that pattern, that setup that I'm describing is foreign to you, that's something that you've never heard, check out the Simpler Trading YouTube channel and the free video that I cut last night, where I talked about the very same thing, only applying to the NAS. Same idea. What kind of candle are we going to get in terms of that pause candle? All right. So next up is, let's see, what's our next symbol? Give me one sec here. All right. Do I factor gaps into potential entries? Oh, of course, Matt. Yeah, of course. They're supporting resistance. Yeah, they're supporting resistance. That's it. So, for example, with Tesla, sure, let me pull that up. Think of gaps as a window that wants to be closed. It doesn't have to be closed that day. So you're talking the gap around 900 and 9. Oh, okay, sure. So what we're talking about here, it is gorgeous outside here in South Florida. So I thought I'd open up my window and clearly some helicopter or something flying by. All right, so in there, look, if we got down there, I'd be willing to be a buyer. But here's the thing: structure before strategy. So if and when we sell off down to this area, this is not the first consideration, which is price. Down in here would be the first consideration, which is structure. So this would be the first place to consider. If that is yellow on the lower JT multi or green over green like it is now, no problem. That would be a fade or some sort of trend following buy. Yeah, but that is going to be a zone of support, likely oversold support, but that would be a zone of support. Absolutely. Okay, so next up, hey there, William. Thanks, Raghee. Had a grand overnight in Natty Gas. Gosh, Natty's been so good to us since August, and I've been sort of warning everybody that we are seasonally getting into the bumpy part of the seasonal trend, not the technical trend, although the technical trend and the seasonal trend are actually dovetailing very nicely. They're in sync, and that's what we want. We have this oversold zone here. and we're just looking for a quick, maybe halfway up the range move, but move the stops to secure profit, as I think I understand points of validity and points of control, but appreciate these zones on the NG. So remember, point of control is subject to the look back. So point of control, the most volume since what date? It's anchored. It's anchored, right? So you see how as I'm moving this amount of data on the screen around, the point of control will change based on how far back I'm looking for the most volume at a specific level. Points of validity, that's a Ragheeism. So a POV, or a point of validity, is what I started calling stop losses for myself, when earlier in my career, I would just ignore them like most of us do. And so then I realized I need to communicate this idea of a stop loss in something much more definite a manner rather than a suggestion. Let's stop the loss here. Well, if I'm losing 100, why not 200? Why not 300? Why not 3% versus 2%? So the bottom line is I changed the verbiage in my mind to make it more meaningful, because now, rather than a stop loss, which feels like such a suggestion and so arbitrary, so subjective, I started relating to myself, that is a level of validity. Anything below that really starts to question why we're still in it. So that's the difference between the two. Your point of validity is tricky here because it's chop, right? So, but I do think there's more of an oversold quality to this rather than a downtrend. So that's why I think, so nice trade. So intraday. So maybe just manage that intraday. Maybe manage that intraday. Take a look at some VWAPs, take a look at some Darvis, something like that. All right, what do I think about Disney? I've been wanting to go. They have a new part of the park that's opening where you can stay in the hotel. And I thought about doing that. It looks so cool. And then I realized I'm probably going to be surrounded by a bunch of screaming 8 and 9-year-olds. And yeah, no. So I really wanted to go to I forgot what it is. I think you get to stay on a cruiser, and the hotel rooms look like you're on a ship. Oh my gosh, it was so cool. So yeah, Disney, I want to go, but that's probably not going to happen. Disney, though, as a stock, don't really want to go there unless I'm looking for maybe a short the rip. And that would happen right around just below 160, that area. Yeah, probably that 160 area. So that's a short, though. Now, if you have a longer duration on Disney, there's probably some interesting buys that are brewing starting at about 148.5 down to 142 on the weekly. So if your duration's longer, if your ambition to hold Disney is on a longer time frame, lengthen the time frame on your chart and maybe look at that. So let's see, buy the 6E. Look, if we get a pullback, that long 6E would work, but for me, it would be a short. On long dollar would actually equate to short the euro. So whether that's 6E, whether that's puts on FXE, but if the dollar pulls back, then a long euro indicator or long euro setup would be profitable. All right, I'm new here. What are the two lines indicators at the bottom? That's called the JT multi. It's how I understand the overall trend of the market based on 8/13/21 and 34 EMAs. All right, Jamie says, as a 9-year-old, I take offense to that. Well, 9-year-olds studying the market, first of all, you're not a normal 9-year-old. So kudos. You're far more awesome a 9-year-old or any age than I ever was. And number two, I'm a 9-year-old on the inside. So the fact of the matter is, unless I find the kids less irksome and probably their parents. Yeah. All right, next up, we should have a Raghee roundup and in-person seminar in South. Oh gosh, William, I don't know. This isn't cool. Yeah, maybe someday. I think we're going to be having our mentorship, our simpler mentorship again sometime. But yeah, I don't know. Oceans. Oh, that is nice though. That is nice. We'll see. I don't know. January, February, whenever we can run away from the lousy weather everywhere else, but here in Hawaii, yeah, it doesn't stink to be in Florida during the winter months. It's gorgeous out right now. It reminds me why we put up with the summers and the mosquitoes. All right, gang. As always, thanks for being here for charts and oh, one more symbol. Hey there, RD. ASAN. Whoa, let's give that a minute. Okay, let's wait for a minor. Watch the video. Watch the video on the Simpler Trading YouTube channel where I describe what I would look for after a sell-off. That's definitely what you need. You need a minor low, preferably at that volume ledge or an inside candle. And that might show the market's ready to take a pause because holy moly, that's some move. Okay. That's definitely outside the norm. Twitchy says she doesn't like us that much. No, Twitchy, just you. Just you. All right, gang. Be good to each other, except for Twitchy. I'll see you all tomorrow. Same time, same station.